Rain came down over Coruscant as if the heavens had found the city guilty. It streamed over the 1,000 towers of the Jedi Temple, blackening the pale stone and turning the landing platforms into mirrors, where lights from the traffic lanes bled and trembled. Thunder rolled among the high spires. Far beneath, the planet city burned with its sleepless constellations of commerce and fear. But within the council chamber, there was a silence older than any republic. Masters sat in a ring of polished stone. Their robes were dry, their faces composed, their eyes fixed upon the 2 Jedi who had come before them without summons and without apology. Revan stood at the center of the chamber, rain still glistening on the edges of his cloak. He had not yet taken the mask that one day would frighten armies. He was young enough that some in the room remembered him as a boy with sharp questions and quicker answers, yet already he carried himself like a commander who had learned to hear distant drums no one else could hear. Behind him stood Malak, taller, broader, his jaw clenched with impatience, his eyes moving from master to master like a man counting enemies. Vandar Tokare was the first to speak. "You understand why you were ordered to wait?" Revan bowed, but the gesture carried no surrender. "I understand why the order was given, and yet you came here to contest it. I came here to end it." Vrook Lamar's expression hardened. He was a man built of refusal, old not merely in years but in certainty, with a voice that could make even truth sound like misconduct. "The Council does not take instruction from knights who mistake outrage for wisdom." "Then take instruction from the dead," Revan said. The chamber chilled. Not by the Force, not by sorcery, but by the sudden nakedness of words too terrible to be dressed. Malak shifted behind him, satisfied. Kavar did not move. Atris's eyes narrowed, not in anger alone but in recognition. She had heard the same reports. They all had. Revan lifted a small hollow projector from inside his cloak. He set it upon the stone. Blue light shivered into being, cracked by static. A farming settlement appeared. Its fields burned into black scars, its domed shelters gutted, its wells poisoned. Bodies lay in rows beside a ditch. Mandalorian banners hung over the ruins like trophies taken from a defeated lord. "This is Sirocco," Revan said, though none needed to be told. "And Cathar, and Iris III, and all the little worlds too poor to matter until their children are ash. Their names change. The lesson does not." The image flickered. A woman in torn civilian dress held a child against her breast, while armored warriors marched prisoners toward transports. Her face was frozen in the moment before pleading became useless. The Republic Senate argues. The military bleeds. The Outer Rim burns. Revan looked from one master to the next. "And the Jedi wait." "The Jedi observe," Vrook said. "The Jedi hide." Malak smiled faintly at that. A brutal little curve of the mouth. Vrook rose with a slow fury that seemed to gather every shadow in the room. "Careful." "No," Revan said softly. "That is what I am asking this council to stop being." The thunder outside cracked like a blade against iron. For one long breath, the only movement in the chamber was the turning of rain down the windows. Zez-Kai-El leaned forward. His face was drawn, lined by years of contemplation that had become somewhere along the way a kind of mourning. "You ask us to lead Jedi into war. You ask us to become generals of the Republic. I ask you to become guardians," Revan replied. "Guardians do not always answer slaughter by joining slaughter. Sometimes they do if they wish anything to remain worth guarding." Kavar's fingers tightened once on the arm of his chair. He had fought pirates on the Rim, insurgents in the Mid-Rim, border wars too small for history, but large enough for graves. Unlike Vrook, he did not despise Revan's passion. Unlike Revan, he knew passion's cost. "You have supporters already," he said. "Knights, Padawans, some masters. They whisper in halls. They train beyond assigned hours. They study battle records as if they were scripture. They are preparing for the choice the Council refuses to make." "A choice," Atris said, "or a rebellion." Revan turned to her. In another life, she might have stood beside him from the beginning. She loved the Jedi with a devotion so fierce it could become cruelty. She loved order, archives, lineage, the gleam of tradition untouched by filthy hands. Yet beneath that was a wound she concealed from everyone, even herself. She feared being present at the turning of history and choosing the coward's seat. A rebellion against what? Revan asked. Mercy? Duty? The code does not forbid defense. The code forbids attachment, Atris said. War breeds it. To soldiers, to victories, to grief, to vengeance. Then teach us to survive it. The answer struck her more deeply than anger would have. Her lips parted, then closed. Vandar watched them all. Small, ancient, luminous in the dim chamber. He seemed at times less a person than a question the Force had asked long ago and never answered. When he spoke again, his voice held no thunder, yet every ear bent toward him. The Mandalorians are not merely raiders, he said. They are a test. Tests are not sacred when they murder children, Malak snapped. Rook rounded on him. Your anger condemns your argument. My anger remembers what your caution forgets. Enough, Kavar said. Malak stepped forward. No, let him speak. Let all of them speak. Let them tell us patience is wisdom while worlds beg for help. Let them tell us corpses are mysteries. Revan raised one hand, not looking back, and Malak fell silent. The gesture was small. Everyone saw it. Everyone understood it. Malak had been made of wildfire since boyhood, but Revan had learned how to make wildfire wait. Vandar's eyes remained on Revan. There are shadows behind this war. Yes, Revan said. That single word changed the air. Rook frowned. You know this. I suspect it. So do you. The Mandalorians move like a blade aimed by a hand beyond them. Their conquests provoke us. Their atrocities call specifically to the Jedi. They want us in the war. Then entering it may be precisely the trap, Zez-Kai-El said. Or staying out of it is. No one answered. Revan walked slowly around the hollow projection. Smoke and blue flame played across his face. A trap is not avoided by standing still when the floor burns beneath you. If there is a hidden power using the Mandalorians, we will not uncover it from this tower. We will find it in their war camps, in their strategies, in their commanders' fears. We must go to the wound if we mean to find the poison. Vandar's gaze drifted to the image of the ruined settlement. And if the poison enters us, then stand with us and draw it out. There it was. Not the plea of an ambitious knight demanding permission. Not merely accusation. An invitation. Terrible and brilliant. Revan had not come only to ask the council to release the young to war. He had come to ask the old to come with them. Rook laughed once, without humor. You cannot be serious. Revan looked at him. I have never been more serious. The council does not march behind its students. Then march beside them. The Jedi Order cannot become an army. The Jedi Order became a sanctuary because once, long before any of us, someone fought to make sanctuary possible. Kavar exhaled slowly. Rain whispered against the glass like 1,000 distant voices. He looked to Vandar, then to the others. If we refuse him, he goes anyway. Rook's eyes flashed. Then he is fallen already. No, Kavar said. If we refuse him, we teach every Jedi who follows him that conscience and counsel are enemies. That is how schisms begin. Atris's face tightened. And if we agree, we sanctify disobedience. Not if we lead, Kavar replied. Not if the council takes command of what is already happening. Zez-Kai-El lowered his eyes. War corrupts command. So does fear of command, Revan said. For the first time, Vandar's expression changed. It was not approval. It was sorrow sharpened into decision. He closed his eyes, and those strong in the Force felt the chamber deepen around him. The city noise seemed to recede. Even the storm became distant. In that quiet, each master touched the future, and the future recoiled. They saw nothing whole, only shards. Burning fleets above Malachor. A mask lifted from ash. The Republic saved and broken. A wound in the Force screaming without sound. Revan crowned in darkness. Revan standing against darkness. Malak laughing with a mouth of metal. Bastila Shan falling through light. The council scattered. The Sith returning from the unknown like winter from beyond the map. Vandar opened his eyes. "We have mistaken stillness for balance," he said. Vrook turned toward him, stunned. "Master, we have waited because we feared what war would make of us, yet fear has already shaped our choice." Vandar's small hands folded over his cane. "If Revan goes without us, the war will have him alone. If the young follow without guidance, their courage may become conquest. If the Republic fights without Jedi, desperation may become tyranny. We cannot prevent the trial. We may yet choose how we enter it." "Nay, Gantoy." Atris stood. Her white robes caught the blue light of the dead settlement. "The archives will record this as the day the council abandoned restraint." "No," Kavar said, rising too. "Let them record it as the day restraint took up a sword." Vrook stared at them all as if betrayal had become a rune. "You would hand the order to war because a gifted knight shames you with grief." "I would rather be shamed by grief," Zez-Kai-El said quietly, "than protected by indifference." The words wounded Vrook more than Revan's accusations. For beneath his severity, beneath his brittle pride, he did care. That was the cruelty of it. He cared so much that he feared any action not purified by certainty, and certainty had become his idol. Vandar lifted his cane and struck it once against the floor. "The council will convene the full conclave. We will petition the Senate not for permission but for coordination. Jedi will enter the Mandalorian wars under council authority. We will serve as protectors, commanders only where command is necessary, healers where healing is possible, witnesses where truth must be preserved. We will not wage extermination. We will not answer cruelty with cruelty. We will not forget that every victory must leave room for peace." "No." Malak's eyes burned with triumph. Revan's did not. He looked almost older. "And I?" Revan asked. Vandar studied him. "You will kneel." The command took the room by surprise. Malak stiffened. Revan held Vandar's gaze, then lowered himself to one knee upon the cold stone. Vandar descended from his seat. Slowly, with Kavar at his side, he crossed the chamber until he stood before the young knight who had forced history open with both hands. "You will lead," Vandar said, "but not alone. You will answer to this council. You will accept masters beside you, not behind you. You will submit your strategies to review. You will remember that victory is not the same as justice." Revan bowed his head. "I will." Vrook's voice cut like iron. "And when he does not?" Revan looked up. "Then, stop me." The honesty of it silenced even Malak. Vandar placed one hand upon Revan's brow. "Then by the will of the council, by the burden of the code, and by the light that must enter even war, rise as commander of the Jedi intervention." Revan rose. Outside, lightning unveiled Coruscant in white fire. For an instant, the city looked not like a capital, but like a battlefield waiting for armies that had not yet been born. By dawn, the temple bells rang. Not for mourning, for departure. Across the temple, doors opened that had long been closed. Armories sealed since the Exar Kun War breathed out the scent of oiled metal and old vows. Jedi quartermasters unwrapped battle robes reinforced with cortosis weave. Healers packed field kits beside scrolls of meditation. Archivists copied star charts of the Outer Rim onto military-grade navicomputers. Padawans whispered in dormitories until masters came and found them already dressed. In the Eastern Training Court, Revan watched the first volunteers assemble beneath the gray morning. There were fewer than he had dreamed and more than the council had feared. Knights whose faces he knew. Students he wished were younger than they were. Masters who looked as if they had aged 10 years between midnight and dawn. Among them stood Mitra Surik, quiet, attentive, her gaze not on Revan but on the people around him, as though she already understood that war was not made of maps, but of every soul asked to step onto them. Mala came to Revan's side. They followed. The council followed, Revan said. There is a difference. All the difference in the galaxy. Malak snorted. You think Vrook will not choke us with lectures before we clear the hyperspace lane? I think Vrook will save lives precisely because he hates the cost of spending them. You are generous. I am practical. Below them, Vandar appeared upon the steps with Kavar, Zezkai El, Atris, and Vrook. The sight rippled through the assembled Jedi. Until that morning, the Mandalorian Wars had been a moral crisis outside the Order. Now it stood among them wearing the faces of their teachers. Vandar raised his hand. We go, he said. Not because war is glorious. It is not. We go because the innocent cannot be told to wait for perfect wisdom while violence consumes them. We go because the Force does not live only in temples, nor speak only in meditation. It cries out from farms, from ships, from burning cities, from frightened soldiers who believe no one is coming. We go to answer. And we go knowing the answer may change us. No. His words carried through the court. No cheer followed. That would have been easier. Instead, there was a silence in which everyone present accepted that they were not marching into legend, but into consequence. Then Kavar ignited his lightsaber. Blue light flared in the rain-damp air. One by one, other blades awakened. Green, blue, violet, gold. Not raised in triumph, but held upright like candles for the dead. Revan did not ignite his blade. He looked at the gathered Jedi, and for the first time since he had begun speaking against the council, he felt the weight of being heard. Mitra approached him after the assembly broke. She wore plain battle robes, her hair tied back, her expression calm enough to be mistaken for certainty. You got what you wanted, she said. No, Revan replied. I got what I asked for. She considered the difference and nodded. Where first? Onderon's border sectors. The Mandalorians are testing the Republic line near Vanquo. If they break through, they split 3 supply routes and isolate half the rim defense. You say that like a man reading tomorrow's casualty list. I am. Mitra looked toward the ships waiting beyond the court. Then, let us make tomorrow difficult for them. Revan smiled faintly. That is the plan. But, as she left, his smile faded. Atris was watching him from beneath the archway. She crossed the wet stone with measured steps. You should know, she said. I argued against naming you commander. I assumed. I still believe you are dangerous. I know. That does not mean you are wrong. Revan studied her. In the cold morning, her severity looked almost fragile. Are you coming? The archives must be preserved. The young must be instructed. The Order cannot empty itself into your crusade. My crusade? Our crusade, she corrected, and seemed to hate him for making the correction necessary. I will remain on Coruscant for now, but I will send historians, healers, and battle meditation adepts where they are needed. If the Order is to enter war, it will not do so without memory. None. Memory can become a chain, only for those afraid of judgment, or a weapon for those too fond of it. Her eyes flashed. Then, unexpectedly, her anger softened into something colder and more honest. Do not make me write about you. I would rather make you proud. The words unsettled her. She turned away before he could see how deeply. By midday, the first Jedi fleet rose from Coruscant. It was not large beside the Republic Navy, but it changed the shape of hope. Temple shuttles, medical frigates, diplomatic cruisers hastily armed, ancient training vessels with modern shields fitted overnight. Their hulls climbed through storm and cloud, and when they broke into orbit, the planet below glittered like a jewel too heavy for any crown. Republic Command received them with disbelief. Admiral Saul Kareth stood aboard the flagship Courageous and watched the Jedi transponders bloom across his tactical display. He was a lean man with tired eyes and a patriot's resentment toward miracles. He had spent months begging for reinforcements and years distrusting mystics. Now they arrived not as advisors, but as commanders with blades. "Patch me to their lead ship," he said. The holoprojector formed Revan's image in blue. Behind him stood Vandar, Kavar, and Malak, an arrangement that made Kareth feel as if he were addressing both a young general and the court that might condemn him. "Admiral," Revan said. "Commander Revan," Kareth replied, tasting the new title. "I was not informed the Jedi had joined the war. Neither were the Mandalorians." Kareth's mouth twitched despite himself. "Then I suppose we should disappoint them quickly." The first campaign began not with a grand charge, but with rescue. At Vanquo, Mandalorian raiding wings had trapped 3 Republic evacuation convoys in a debris field of shattered mining stations. Civilian transports drifted with failing engines while Republic escorts burned fuel and lives trying to hold a perimeter. The Mandalorians did not rush. They circled like hunters who knew wounded prey could be made more afraid by waiting. Revan arrived with 6 Jedi ships and half a Republic task force Kareth had scraped together from exhausted patrol groups. In the command pit of the Courageous, officers murmured as the tactical board filled with impossible recommendations. Revan saw patterns where others saw motion. Mandalorian interceptors were not merely attacking. They were hurting. Their capital ships hung back not from caution but because they wanted the convoys to flee toward a gap seeded with cloaked mines. "There," Revan said, pointing. "That is not an escape route. It is a grave." Kareth frowned. "Sensors show clear." "Then your sensors are being flattered." Kavar leaned over the display. "He is right. Their fighters keep yielding that corridor too easily." Kareth looked at the Jedi Masters, then at Revan. "Suggestion? Order the transports to power down." The bridge stared at him. Kareth said, "They are under fire." "Yes, and every instinct tells them movement is survival. That is what the Mandalorians are using. Power them down. Make the raiders come to us." "Nani? And if they refuse?" Revan turned toward the comm officer. "Put me through." His voice entered the terrified transports, the smoke-filled cockpits, the cargo holds where families clung to netting while hulls shook from near misses. "This is Jedi Commander Revan. Cut your engines. Kill non-essential power. Trust the Republic line. Help has arrived." Later, survivors would argue about what had made them obey. Some said it was the word Jedi. Some said it was the calm in his voice. One old freighter captain swore that for a heartbeat she felt a hand over hers on the control lever, not forcing, only steadying. The convoy went dark. The Mandalorians hesitated. It was the first mistake Revan had been waiting for. "Now," he said. Jedi pilots dived through the debris field, engines cold until the last breath, then ignited in sudden streaks of white and blue. Kavar led the assault, his fighters sliding between tumbling station fragments, cannons flashing. Malak broke formation with savage brilliance, tearing into a Mandalorian wing before it could adjust. Mitra took 3 ships with her and vanished behind the carcass of an ore platform, emerging beneath the enemy's flank exactly when Revan had predicted they would roll to pursue Kavar. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The rescue lasted 9 hours. That was the part no songs remembered. Jedi cut civilians from crushed compartments. Vandar moved through a transport whose life support had failed, touching frost-bitten faces, breathing warmth through the force into lungs that had nearly surrendered. Zez-Kyle sat among Republic medics and held dying soldiers as they spoke messages for families they would never see. Malak carried children 2 at a time through smoke, angry at their weightlessness. Revan stood in a hangar streaked with blood and listened to casualty reports until every number became a face he could not afford to mourn yet. A little girl with a burned hand asked him if the Mandalorians would come back. Revan knelt before her. "Not here." She searched his face. "Promise." Behind him, Vrook watched. Revan hesitated, because Jedi did not make promises to comfort when the future was uncertain. Then he said, "Promise." Vrook's expression darkened, but he said nothing. That night, aboard the Courageous, the first argument of the war began. "You had no right," Vrook said. Revan did not turn from the viewport. Beyond the glass, damaged transports limped towards safety beneath Jedi escort. To rescue them? To bind yourself with certainty you do not possess. The child asked if she was safe. You do not know that she is. I know she is safer because we came. Vrook stepped closer. You think compassion excuses falsehood. It does not. And you think truth without compassion remains virtuous. It does not. You are already bending. Revan finally turned. No, Master. I am already learning that the code is easier in rooms where no one is bleeding. Vrook recoiled as if struck, and perhaps he had been. Kavar, standing near the door, intervened before the old master could answer. Enough, both of you. Vrook's gaze remained on Revan. This war will make him beloved. And that frightens you more than if it made him hate it, Kavar said. It should frighten you. It does. That ended the argument. Not because peace had been made, but because fear honestly spoken sometimes leaves no room for pride. In the weeks that followed, the Jedi intervention became a flame passed from world to world. They broke sieges, escorted refugees, exposed traps, and forced Republic commanders to account for civilian lives that military necessity had begun to erase. The Council's presence altered everything. Jedi who might have followed Revan into reckless glory now found themselves assigned to hospitals, negotiations, evacuation corridors, and prisoner exchanges. Masters who once spoke abstractly of patience learned the vocabulary of triage. Republic soldiers who had believed the Jedi arrogant discovered them carrying stretchers at dawn. And the Mandalorians noticed. On the conquered moon of Jebel, Mandalore the Ultimate stood before a fire pit where captured Republic banners burned green and black. His armor was iron dark, his cloak lined with the pelts of beasts killed on worlds whose names his people had taken as songs. Around him gathered clan chiefs, shock commanders, and priests of war. A scout captain knelt. The Jedi have come in force. Mandalore said nothing. They are not divided as expected. The Council itself has entered the conflict. Revan leads under their authority. A murmur passed through the warriors. Some laughed, delighted. Some spat. Some grew still. Cassius Fett, sharp-eyed and coldly elegant in his armor, folded his arms. That complicates the hunt. Mandalore turned his helmet toward him. No, it perfects it. The young one was meant to break from his masters, Cassius said. Instead he brings them with him. Then we will break them all. A priest cast powder into the flames. The fire roared blue. For a moment, in that unnatural light, something moved across Mandalore's visor like a shadow too deep to belong to any flame. The Jedi have remembered they are warriors, Mandalore said. Good. Good. Now we will teach them what warriors must become. No. Far beyond him, beyond Republic space, beyond the maps of cautious men, another power listened through servants and echoes. It had expected impatience. It had expected division. It had expected Revan to come like a blade without a hilt, cutting enemies and allies alike until only hunger held him. Instead, the Council had joined him. In the dark between stars, the hidden Sith recalculated, and destiny, denied its easiest road, chose a bloodier one. The war taught the Jedi its first lesson at Vanquo, and the lesson was this: No victory remained clean once touched. The rescued civilians became symbols before their wounds had closed. Holo recordings spread through the Republic faster than official dispatches could restrain them. Jedi starfighters diving through wreckage. Masters healing children. Revan's calm voice guiding transports through darkness. Worlds that had cursed the Order for silence now shouted its name with relief. Senators who had privately accused the Jedi of cowardice began praising their ancient courage.